It does.
Yeah.
I'm like a damn addict. I really am for fast food. And it was funny is my mom, she was heavy, and she grew up in a military family that only allowed her to drink water or milk for dinner or lunch or whatever, and whole wheat bread, and they could never have candy unless it was Easter or Halloween. And when her and her brothers and sisters grew up, they're all fat. They all, it was, it's almost like the whole Catholic school girl thing where they're so sheltered, they get out and they start fucking everybody.
Yeah, exactly.
I know it's a stereotype, but it's kind of like that. They were sheltered from all the sweets, and they got out. And I remember she told me one time, she said, our mom and dad would never let us really have the food we wanted. So I told myself when I grew up, and if I had kids, you guys could have whatever you want. She kind of fucked me up there. But it was done out of love. So
I mean, but she gave you the ability to choose, though. Like when people aren't given a choice growing up, when they finally get their freedom, that's like how it was for me in a lot of things.
I like that. Yeah.
So the fact that she gave you a choice, because she passed away too, right?
Yeah, 2005.
What did she pass away from?
She had cancer, but she also had kidney failure. And she didn't. And most people think that she had kidney. If you say kidney failure, people think that she was diabetic. She wasn't. Part of my whole natural health schooling, I found out that a lot of times you can have things go wrong in your body through subluxations in your spine. You ever go to a chiropractor?
I used to.
Okay. So you know what I'm talking about, those movements of the spine that can press on the nerves that run to, say, for example, if I were to be in a car accident and I was hit in the back, in the middle of my back, I have my dorsal vertebrae that could be compressed on the nerves that run to my heart. So since your body makes a whole new you every 90 days or so, every 90 days, because the nerve flow is cut off, I get a weaker and weaker heart. So sometimes people say, oh, he had a heart attack, we don't even know why. It's because his heart got weak over the years, he had an injury he never knew about. Well, with her, she was in a car accident. Guess what was injured? Her lower back.
Oh.
The nerve that ran to her kidneys. And she never, because I started getting the natural health and she never believed in it. And I finally got her to go to the chiropractor because I told her I was going to cut her off. I told her I didn't want to hear nothing about none of her problems. I said, if you don't care, I don't care anymore. So she finally went. And once she started to get worked on by him, she literally started urinating again. She could, all right, but just a little, because, when you have kidney failure, you can't pee at all. You have to go on kidney dialysis. But it was kind of too late, because she had already had cancer, and she had had one mastectomy, another mastectomy, and then it spread to her brain, her spine. It was so fucked up. And then I remember they told me that they had to take her off of kidney dialysis because the cancer was interfering with it working properly. And, to this day, I don't know if that was true or not. But, I had to watch her day by day lose consciousness. It was like she just went to sleep, over like maybe 5 days after they took her off. And I remember the last time I spoke to her, I told her I would be back to see her the next day. And, she was sleeping, but she was like, and then from then on, she never spoke.
Jesus.
So, but I mean, that was part of my journey, man.
Yeah, I went.
Oh.
My dad passed away 2 to 3 years ago. He had, it was like how old was your mom?
56.
That's how old my dad was. Yeah.
Wow.
56, and he had heart disease, and then he had kidney failure, and he was on dialysis for. It was weird because like the last couple years, my relationship with my dad was really fucked up. Out of respect for other people involved, I'm not going to divulge too many details, but there was abusive upbringing, and it was one of those things where what happened was I was going to therapy, and for some reason I couldn't remember the first 20 years of my life. I just couldn't for some reason. And
really?
Then I started reading this book called No Acting Please, which is all about learning how to get in touch with your feelings. And then I was going to therapy, And then suddenly it all hit me like a tidal wave. And then I started going through suicidal phases. I became one of those people who started like cutting his arms and tried cutting his wrists and stuff. So I've never revealed that ever.
Now we all know.
Now we all know. No, so I went through some pretty dark stages with that, and before my dad died, I had actually cut him out of my life 6 months prior. But before that, I remember he wasn't willing to go on dialysis, and then my ex-girlfriend's dad was a doctor, and she took a look at his reports and said that he's going to die soon. And for some reason, I was like, even though my relationship with my dad wasn't good, I convinced him to go on dialysis. I like started bawling and stuff. I'm like, you got to go on dialysis. So you got to have another year in his life. But those last 6 months of not, like, to this day, like, I started realizing, maybe on Father's Day is when I started realizing it. I never truly dealt with what I was going through with losing my dad. So as of recent, it's like I'm starting to experience a lot of the grieving feelings again, because the funny thing about grief, you know, there's the 5 stages, right? There's like denial, anger, bargaining, depression, but the last one is the one everyone forgets about, which is acceptance. You know, like once you go through the shit, you're gonna end up okay. You know,
right?
But I never actually went. I don't feel like I properly grieved over stuff. Like I didn't even cry at my dad's funeral, but on Father's Day I was just like bawling my fucking eyes out.
That's like my brother. My brother did that. He didn't cry at all at my mom's funeral. I was thinking like, what the fuck is wrong with you? You know, I was going through my own thing. I was busy crying, but you know, he told me a few years later. He said he was just in shock and he just couldn't believe it.
Yeah,
you know, it's funny too. Like you had a chance to talk to him, and you got him to go on dialysis. I had a moment where, it's not exactly similar, but it's similar as in like, I got a chance to talk to her really before she died, because she had a seizure one night.
Oh.
And I was, now, my mom was in and out of the hospital so much, I began to become jaded, you know, and it was just like, it was the norm for her to be in the hospital. So there were a couple of days I didn't come to see her, and she always wanted to see me every day. Well, there's one day I didn't go see her because I had met this chick, and I was talking to her on the phone all night. But I was like, I'll see Mom tomorrow. She'll be fine. I'll see her. You know, she had a seizure that night. And
shit.
in a coma.
Whoa.
And they told me to get over there because she could die tonight. And when I got there, it was the scariest thing for me to see her laying there, just eyes wide open, and she was just going through these twitching movements, and that was it. It was like I wasn't there. She couldn't hear me or nothing like that, and they wanted me to pull the plug.
Wow.
She was in that coma for about a week and a half, maybe 2 weeks.
That's terrifying.
And it was crazy, man, because she would just lay there, and then she would go into these tics. It was just the scariest thing, man. Well, I refused to pull the plug. Like, they were pissing me off. I had like 2 doctors talking to me, like, you gotta think about the quality of life and all this other shit. And I was like, look, I know my mom, and she wouldn't want me to pull the plug.
Right.
You know? And they were like, she's not gonna live through the week, just so you know. You know, she came out of the coma, and she lived 2 more months.
Wow.
You know what I'm saying? 2 more months before she went. And I was able to talk to her, and I would have, man, let me tell you, I would have felt so bad. I don't even know if I would be able to deal with it if she had died with me not seeing her.
Yeah, of course.
You know? So you were able to, you know, you talked to even though you were mad at your dad, you were able to talk to him and get him on dialysis. And that's what kind of reminded me of it. I was like, man, you know, what if he hadn't have talked to his dad before his dad died or something like that? You know? It just made me think about that situation.
Yeah, I mean, it's like, it's one of those things where it's like I helped out my dad in that area, and even though I hadn't talked to him for the last 6 months, I was like, at least I was able to help give him that push to have an extra year to live. Because most people who go on dialysis die. Like, I've never heard, like, they die within a year. on average. So yeah,
Really?
yeah, I've heard average. I know people who used to work in dialysis units. So
See, she was told. Well, she told me that the longest people live is 7, but she ended up living like 13, 14 years on dialysis.
no way,
Yeah.
no way.
It always fucking bothered me that I wasn't able to help her, man, because they told me she had really strong heart and lungs, like really strong essential body parts, but it was just like that injury, that back injury, it just went too long. We found it too late. You know what I mean? So,
Was your mom like one of those like fighters, like Survivor and stuff?
they would always say that about her. They were because her whole thing was taking care of me and my brother. You know what I mean? In my anger stage, I went through a huge bout of anger. I mean, I was really mad at her, man, because especially if I had read different books on health, it was just like, why did you forsake your own health to take care of us? You got to take care of yourself so you can be there for us. But for her, it was always us first, no matter what. So, that really fucking bothered me. But then I came to acceptance and realizing that, look, she did the best she could do for what she knew. She thought she was doing the best.
Yeah.
So that's what helped me have peace with it.
Yeah, that's cool. I mean, my mom, I've always considered my mom one of the strongest women I ever knew because she had to deal with a lot of like domestically violent behavior, and she stuck through it. And if there's anyone that should have ended up a little suicidal, it could have been her out of any of us. But the same thing like with your mom. Like my mom's not the best at communicating. Like she doesn't know how to express her heart too much.
Okay.
But she's also she's also constantly working. And anytime I've been broke or can't or like she doesn't hesitate like to help me or give me more. She's one of those people who shows more by her actions than her actual communication. So it's one of those things where you're like growing up, you're like, I need that love, Mom, and now I don't have that in me. But when you get older, you begin to realize and accept things, And I think it's funny how people don't do these emotional processes when they're so important. Like you were talking about how you were mad at your mom, and it's like you got to sort of go through that blame feeling and then also understand what's really underneath there and stuff. Like like a lot of people just go with what they're currently feeling but don't try to examine what are the roots of where it comes from. And that's when I think true healing comes in.
Yeah, I think a lot of it I just didn't want to face.
Yeah.
I remember after she died, I slept a lot, which is part of the depression phase.
Yeah.
I just slept and slept and slept and slept, you know what I mean? But you said your mom, y'all had money problems growing up. Now you're a rich YouTuber. You can buy everything.
I do want to retire her one day. I mean, she's been busting her ass for years, and I got a kid sister. I mean, I feel sorry for my younger sister. I got blood donated today. I mean, I didn't donate blood. I had blood drawn today because I signed up for life insurance, and it was sent. And
that's it.
What'd you say?
That's
yeah, I need it. I don't trust Veronica.
I don't know what the fuck you're doing on that damn movie set with that guy.
Yeah, exactly. No, that shit paranoids me. I'm not gonna lie. It's kind of hard to deal with. Like I've seen, like she has this movie coming out that won the biggest film festival award, the audience award, at the biggest LA Film Festival. That's like the film festival to be in. And it won the award, and she's in like every fucking scene. But there's a couple of sex scene moments. And it's a little hard to sit through.